SegaBits presents Sega Talk, a podcast talking all things Sega! With your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sega Talk podcast. I'm your host, George, and with me is Barry.
Hello.
And today we're going to be blasting off, or I guess racing around the laps in the futuristic sci-fi F-Zero GX. I know people are probably saying right now, like, why are you guys talking about a Nintendo published game? Well, we'll get into the history of the game and the development, but this episode was actually brought to you by our Patreon. You want to tell them more about this, Barry?
Yes, so this is from Tyler Olu. I hope I got that correct. And he wanted us to cover this game, and we obliged. He's also going to be picking another one pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that, I believe, next month. But here are his thoughts on F-Zero. So he said, F-Zero may not have been my introduction to the series, but it certainly made me a fan. I don't know if any game will be able to capture the same sense of speed again. It's certainly unrivaled in that sense. The team at Sega poured more love and respect into the F-Zero series than Nintendo itself, going above and beyond in creating the wild world of GX. I even got to play a few races in the arcade version at Canada's Wonderland, which managed to take a traditionally console-based experience and really make it feel at home in arcades.
And if you guys didn't know, we don't make any money off of YouTube on this. So if you guys want to support the podcast, you guys can check us out on patreon.com/SegaBits. Next time, the next episode, we're going to have Yakuza 0. So if you want your memories read, it's only $1. So check out our tiers. And if you love the show, support us. Share the show with other Sega fans. We always appreciate all of that love we get from you guys. So let's talk, since this is the first time and probably the only time we're going to talk about F-Zero on this podcast, I want to hear about your history with the franchise, your thoughts as a Sega fan about F-Zero, and what you think about it now. It's kind of like been dormant. It's a very Sega franchise because, you know, we don't have sequels anymore.
Yeah. I never had an SNES growing up. I had friends who owned... I think I had more friends that owned NESs than SNESs, and those that did not own F-Zero, but I feel like I've played this at one point. It might have been a rental from a friend's house. It might have been at a daycare, because I did go to an after-school place that had an SNES. But I remember it because it was the only other game to my memory that looked like Mario Kart, but it actually looked cooler, in my opinion. I thought it looked cool. I probably didn't play it all that much. However, when this game came out, I did not own a GameCube, but I did seek this game out very quickly once I got a Wii, because the Wii, of course, is backwards compatible with GameCube. So I went out and bought all the Sega GameCube titles, including this one. And at the time, I think I actually thought it was a Sega franchise, or I thought it was like a unique title or something to that effect. It didn't really cross my mind that this was Sega really having a go at a Nintendo franchise. And so looking back, it's kind of crazy that this happened, but it makes perfect sense if you follow Sega's arcade goings-ons and their history with that.
So, yeah, with me, it was like, I never heard of F-Zero. I did have a Super Nintendo growing up because I had both, so I guess I was spoiled. Uh-oh, everybody be jealous.
Yeah, right.
I never bought this game, but I remember that, like, at school, we would always trade carts with people. And I let a kid borrow my, I forgot what game it was. It had to be like Mega Man X2, I think, or something that I really wanted back. And he let me borrow F-Zero, and he never gave me back my game. So I was stuck with F-Zero. And growing up, I would never, like, when I was really, really young, never play racing games. Because, like, I always thought they were predictable. You just go around laps and stuff, right? So I'm like, ugh.
Right.
I could be playing a Mickey Mouse game or another adventure platformer game. And so I was stuck with this game, and I would play it, and I don't know, I really liked the music in it. It was really like unique at the time. Kind of reminded me more of what Sega did than Nintendo does. It was like hard rock music, super sci-fi. It was like pseudo 3D, everything we kind of know what AM2 was doing like 6 years before this, right? But I wasn't old enough to know about that, so it was kind of mind blowing here. But they were kind of, this kind of reminds me of the closest Nintendo franchise got to Sega. Like I don't know, I don't want to say they were ripping them off because like there wasn't a sci-fi racer at Sega, but the whole rock style aesthetic, yeah, and the neo-punk.
This is not on the notes, but I'll just ask you a question. If you could do like a baseball player, like sports where they trade players, if we were to trade a Sega franchise for F-Zero, and that would become a Sega franchise and a Sega franchise would go over to Nintendo, what would you trade?
If I was going to trade, I would trade something that's good for both sides. Like I wouldn't want to be like, oh, I don't really like Altered Beast. Let's give it to Nintendo. No, I'd be like, something like, I don't know, like a Ristar would be interesting to see a Nintendo developer take on that, and like that would be interesting.
Maybe Billy Hatcher.
Billy Hatcher would be interesting too. So yeah, it's not in the notes. And as for F-Zero GX, it was one of those times where 2003 where I was kind of like not in the console stuff. I was kind of going away from it because there was no Dreamcast. I kind of didn't feel like I knew what I wanted to do or get what console I wanted to get, but I was more interested on the Xbox because I felt like there was a new Panzer Dragoon and a Jet Set Radio sequel coming for that I kind of overlooked the GameCube until way later on. And then when I came back and then started buying stuff for the GameCube, I started noticing like, yeah, a lot of underrated stuff. Like I understand that they had the Sonic Adventure stuff, but they also had Skies of Arcadia with more content, which we talked about in another episode. And they had this, and this is one of those games where I played on the GameCube, and I was like, "Wow, this game has incredible graphics." It was like this one and that Star Wars game they had. Remember the one with the ship battles, Rogue Squadron, I think it's called.
Right. Yeah.
Those two games right there, like they blew my mind. I was like, "Wow, I didn't know the GameCube could do these kind of graphics." Right? You always think of it as a child, like little toy graphic. You know what I mean? Like has to be below Xbox, but I think like Panzer Dragoon Orta, Rogue, and like this game, like Rogue Squadron and this game are some of the best looking like on rail, smaller games that could look that nice, right, on a console. This game is fast. I vividly remember it being way too fast. It's super hard. I remember my cousin was trying to unlock everything by doing it master difficulty. I was just watching him play, and I'm like, I don't know how you could stand this. You have to be like pinpoint perfect, like almost impossible. Like throw your controller on the ground, impossible. So this is an unforgiving game, very in line with Sega, I guess, or at least what people's image of Sega is. I think it depends on the franchise you're talking about. I think Sega is like could make some easy games, mainstream friendly games, and then they also make super hard games like this game. So let's talk about the development of the game. F-Zero GX is the fourth entry into the F-Zero franchise, and too many hardcore fans of the game. Well, I guess this is considered the best entry to a lot of people, and some people even say it's the best racing game. Since this has been released, they also had F-Zero Climax on the Game Boy Advance back in 2004. This is the first time Sega and Nintendo ever worked together on a game, developing a game. Even more is the first time Sega would take. This is the first time Sega would actually do a Nintendo brand. I guess now we could. Do you consider Mario and Sonic a Nintendo brand?
I'd consider it I would consider it a Sega brand with a Nintendo license.
So I think to understand when the era of this happened, it was happening. Okay, so in 2001, Sega went third party, right? And certain teams seem at this point in like time to have favorite hardware. One was obvious was Sonic Team and Amusement Vision really did like the GameCube and like gravitated right away. Amusement Vision support for the GameCube came quickly after the company would go third party, as it would debut their first game, Monkey Ball, in arcades in 2001. And then a few months later, they would, in September 14, 2001, they would release it on the GameCube. And then they would release a follow-up the next year. If you want to hear us talk more about Super Monkey Ball, you can check out Sega Talk episode number 21, where we cover all the monkey business you could handle. Right here, we're going to be. So, what are your thoughts about Amusement Vision and Sonic Team going to the GameCube at the time? I know Amusement Vision at the time was a new team, so we didn't really know much about them. But
Right.
does the aesthetic and the direction that we're going to, Sonic Team and them, make sense on GameCube?
I mean, at the time, I was upset to see Sega splitting off their studios to different consoles, because GameCube was the one I did not pick up. I think looking back, I didn't really miss out on too much. It's not like it had a big exclusive Sonic title. But something like F-Zero GX would be a game that I would have enjoyed playing, even if it's a Nintendo franchise. I think it did make sense, though, for them to do what they did. I think Amusement Vision's games are very bright, fun, colorful, very Nintendo-friendly. I mean, you look at Virtua Striker. What else is there? There's Spikers Battle. I wish Ollie King released to the GameCube. That would have been pretty sweet, but it never did. And we didn't get a Daytona on the GameCube either. That's kind of surprising to me. It would have been a cool thing to do, maybe like a Daytona, because they were doing years. Remember Daytona 2001? So they could do like a Daytona 2003 or something like that, like a updated port with better controls or something like that. But
Since they had
It
like,
makes sense.
yeah, they had the Super Monkey Ball engine working on the racing game, so it would have been interesting to like port the Daytona assets onto it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after the release of Super Monkey Ball 2, it was obvious that Nintendo and Sega were in talks about making a game together. It's not really a big deal for Nintendo to do this. I mean, they've done it in the past with third-party people. Square Enix in the past have done the Super Mario RPG with them as together. So this time, since Sega's finally third-party, this is the first time these two giants ever teamed up together, and they wanted to have Amusement Vision, which kind of makes sense because the team was made up of Nagoshi. How do you say his first name? Toshihiro Nagashi. And he previously worked on Daytona USA, like we talked about in Daytona USA 2001. So, and he's had a history with working on the GameCube. So I was actually surprised at the time that it wasn't Sonic Team, but whatever, I guess. I bet Sega was like, no, you got to work on Sonic Heroes, man. So, if you could pick another developer within Sega to work with Nintendo on an IP during this time, who else would be a good fit? And what IP would they be a good fit for?
so a Sega developer working on a Nintendo IP. I could see maybe United Game Artists working with Nintendo either on something new and unique, or perhaps taking a pre-existing franchise and giving it a new spin. Like maybe you could see UGA working on, I don't know, like a Pikmin game, but like a completely different genre or something. I think they would probably lend themselves to working well with, because UGA is not really bound to any sort of style. They're mostly like rhythm games, sports games. It might be interesting. I don't know. How about you?
Even though they weren't around at the time and it's kind of cheating, I would always love to see Team Andromeda make a Zelda game with like their aesthetic, that they had going on in the Saturn time, like on Nintendo hardware would be interesting. But like, I was actually thinking like Smilebit making a some sort of adventure game. For some reason I was thinking like a I don't know, Icarus, Kid Icarus. I don't know, something more smaller, like a smaller franchise that you could do whatever you want with, really. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like when you start thinking about it, like Sonic Team, what could they do with Nintendo? I would love to see someone at Sonic Team make a full-scale Wario game. I know Treasure did one on GameCube, but I would love to see a Sega developer's take on that too.
I could see a Kid Icarus rail shooter from Sega. That could be kind of cool.
The team, a Smilebit that did Panzer Dragoon Orta would have been interesting.
Yeah, or I guess UGA because they did Res.
So I have a theory that Sega early on was trying to like spread their games strategically to see where they would find success. But not only that, but also learn about customers in each console and if it could play to their strengths. I think they were kind of low on like they didn't believe in themselves. I mean, I guess when you trash two consoles, it's kind of hard to see like, man, maybe we don't have it anymore. I also think that early on, Sega knew that Toshihiro Nagashi was something special. I think they were like already kind of priming him to take over. I don't know if you guys know this, but after all this stuff, he got his own studio making higher budget games, which we'll be talking about on here. So Amusement Vision was basically a studio that primarily early on was founded with the philosophy of making games cheap. Because Sega management one time complained to them saying that games were too expensive. So Nagashi was like, all right, I'll take it as a challenge to make very cheap games. And that's what happened with Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball, Super Monkey Ball 2. And I guess it makes sense at the time in the early 2000s because Sega was basically just coming out of funding something like Shenmue. So like they understood the cost of spending too much on games that don't sell. And so it seemed that Nagashi kept his stay cheap and over deliver mindset when it came to developing F-Zero GX, as he already modified an already existing Super Monkey Ball engine for the game. I do feel like Nagashi learned a lot that changed him as a developer when he worked with Nintendo. It really seems he wanted to see why Nintendo was successful where Sega wasn't in terms of hardware and brands. He talked about this with Nintendo, with Edge. He said, compared to us, in the big picture, we are similar. But in the finer details, their decision-making and timing, things are different. I learned a lot from them. In short, it's an objectivity. It's hard to describe, but when I do some part of the game, it's okay like this, isn't it? They say, our company doesn't allow this kind of thing ever. I didn't manage to change their minds about anything, not even once. But that's why Nintendo is such a solid brand, even after all these years. That is why we lost the hardware war. I really like the Super Famicom game, and while we made a few proposals, Metroid, for instance, and others, I was confident in making a driving game because of my experience in the genre. Though I'd never make a sci-fi one. All right, my first question to you with this quote is, what do you think about Nintendo having strong standards for their brands with rules they refuse to break? I know this could be a double-edged sword. Do you think this is something Sega has failed with some similar or smaller IPs like Golden Axe Beast Rider? They broke all the rules in the original games with that one. So do you think?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I don't think I would be here talking about Sega if they weren't the company that took risks and tried things. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but when it does for them, it really comes to define them both as a company and come to define some of their greatest games. Now, you might say, in my opinion, like some of the greatest games might be some of their weaker titles or not their AAA moments, but like, if I were to say, I would have much preferred if after Jet Set Radio they just played it safe, set up a bunch of rules for themselves, and went into making the sequel. No, the sequel like throws everything out the window and presents a completely different experience, and it's better for that. And I don't know, I feel like Nintendo plays it safe and it works for them. I wouldn't want to see Sega doing that though. If you follow us on Twitter, SegaBits, it's I've been bringing up the naughty Sega, which was in a Sega 60th anniversary interview with the current president and Sega Shiro, their mascot, and he was like, "Oh, they were talking about, I think, the Game Gear Micro," and they were like, "This is a little weird, but I like it. It's Sega being naughty. I like naughty Sega." And I guess that's a thing over there with the Japanese Sega employees, where they're like, "Oh, we're being naughty," And I think that's kind of fun. I like that mischievous side. Now, again, that also brings us garbage games, but when it works, it works. So
I agree. It's like I said here, it's a double-edged sword. I think it depends on context. Like, I think like Streets of Rage 4 took new risk, new art styles, and new combo system. But it also kind of had stuff from the old game that kind of, I think, pulled it back a little bit, like the movement speed to try to stay true to the old one. So sometimes some of the characters felt a little tanky. So I mean, you know what I mean? It's give and take. I love Streets of Rage 4, so no hate on that game. But let's talk about something else that he talked about in this quote. He says during his proposals to Nintendo, Amusement Vision wanted to do a Metroid game. Is there any other IPs you think Negoshi and his team, now that you know their full history and talent, with Yakuza and all that, any other IPs you would have thought that they could have knocked out of the park at the time?
I think they could have done a really cool, like, physics-based Mario game. Like, I think if you take what they were able to do with Monkey Ball and bring Mario into it, like applying Mario rules to Monkey Ball, and they kind of started doing that later on in the series, where they kind of platformized it a little more and added jumping and things like that. It was weird there, but I could imagine if you had like a whole situation where like Koopa trapped everyone in balls. Like, it's not going to be Super Monkey Ball Mario Edition, but I could just see them maybe using that sort of experience for a big name IP like that and presenting something fun. Because, I mean, to be honest, Mario, when it's not any other game that's not a platformer, goes pretty wildly in a different direction, like racing, sports. Whereas with like Sonic, we see a lot of games that are similar to platforms. So we'll have like 3D Blast, which is, the 3/4 view. And I don't know, you don't really see that with Mario. So I think that would be cool to present sort of a platformer, but more of a puzzle-based game like that.
How about Ice Climbers 2, the sequel? The two boys
Why
in
not?
back, bad boys. Okay, how about
Name them. What are their characters' names?
how about a real Star Fox game? I mean, let's be honest, Star Fox Zero isn't a real sequel, so they could have finally had one with the good boys, the monkey boys doing it,
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things the team at Amusement Vision aimed to do is squeeze all the graphical power they could from the Nintendo GameCube and deliver an impressive-looking game. Nagashi talks about how successful they were by saying, "After it released, I got a call from Nintendo. They said they wanted to see all the source code for the game, and they wanted me to explain how we made that game in that time frame with that budget in detail. They were wondering how we done it. They couldn't figure it out. We were able to achieve something a lot higher than Nintendo had expected." What are your thoughts on Sega's team having to explain to Nintendo developers how they made their game on their own designed hardware?
I think what they should have said is just, when we were developing the game and you guys had all those rules, and they'd be like, yeah, and they're like, at Sega, we don't have rules, so that's how you do it. And they'd be like, oh.
All right, then no more rules. I snuck in here because last night I was falling asleep. Let's talk about the arcade version, because I had to sneak it in here. I didn't know how to like put it in the
Oh,
notes.
yeah, for sure.
F-Zero AX is a counterpart to F-Zero GX, right? So GX stands for GameCube, right? And then the AX is the arcade one. And in lore, in the story, there's technically 2 tournaments or something they're saying it's going around, but people just go that GX is one tournament with AX being a circuit, because in the game you unlock AX, the circuit. So people just say it's a circuit within the GX circuit. So it's both of them are one tournament. All right. I just wanted to explain that. I don't know why it makes sense. It matters, but the game was developed on the short-lived arcade board Triforce, which was developed jointly by Namco, SEGA, and Nintendo based on GameCube hardware. Sadly, though, looking at the history of the arcade board, it seems that SEGA was the biggest supporter, with Namco only releasing 4 titles, with one being canceled, a Star Fox arcade game that never happened. While SEGA had 9 titles, with some re-releases, which we will talk about one right now, a little bit. Even though Nintendo left the arcade space and hadn't done anything since the early 80s, according to Sega's Hiroyuki Sakamoto, he said Nintendo wanted to have brands appear in arcades during this time, and it's why they pinned a deal with Sega and Namco for a new arcade board based hardware, arcade hardware. I think they kind of wanted to do what Dreamcast was doing at the time. I think they found it successful, with the Naomi and the ports. It just didn't take off for them, sadly. Did you know about Sega, Namco, and Nintendo teaming up in 2002 to make an arcade board? And what are your thoughts?
I don't know if I knew it or not, but I was reading magazines like Xbox Nation, and I feel like that's a magazine that would have mentioned that news in other news in the industry, because they were very Sega friendly, being former Dreamcast magazine staff. My thoughts probably would have been kind of like that, like seeing the GameCube mention. It really brings to mind the Naomi arcade hardware, making it easy to port between Dreamcast and arcade, and also making it easy to have franchises exist in 2 areas. And even when you look at the AX machine, it takes the memory cards, and that's a thing that they did with the Dreamcast as well, where you bring your VMU to the arcade and plug it in. So it seems like a continuation of that idea, but the problem is everyone needed to be all in, and I think Sega was the only one all in. So,
like, Nintendo didn't even make one arcade game. Like, you can't have a Triforce, obviously
it must have been a rule.
It's like, when you see the Triforce, the triangles are all the same size. That means they're all doing the same amount of work. It's not one big Sega square triangle.
But it's more like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, that's when I first heard about this. It was when, remember in the early 2000, 2004, 2005, before Sammy bought Sega, there was the whole rumors that Namco and Sega were going to merge together to make a super publisher arcade machine man. And at that time, I thought, oh yeah, of course it's going to happen. I mean, they teamed up with Nintendo, and I thought, and then they might become second party to Nintendo, and I don't have to buy a bunch of consoles. So that was my thought, and the reason I was 100% convinced was because they did the Triforce arcade machine thing that literally had only less than 15 games. That's pretty bad for an arcade board.
Yeah.
So back in 2003, Nintendo Online Monthly in Japan had an interview with director Hiroyuki Sakamoto and producer and supervisor Takaya Amamura, and they talked about the hardest part of doing the crossover. Sakamoto, the director, said, "The controls. GX is controlled with buttons and a stick. AX uses pedals, brakes, and a steering wheel. They're fundamentally different schemes. The GameCube's controller range of input is surprisingly tight. So we wanted very fine-grained controls. Arcade controls are relatively rough. So we turned it so it would be fun to go to town on the controls. We wanted both GX and AX to have the same feel, the same vehicle, should handle the same way in both games. That was hard to achieve. Then later, the schedule became an issue," he laughs. The cabinet, okay, so the cabinet of F-Zero GX, like you talked about, also featured a GameCube memory card slot. While you could, this will allow you to download and upload data to the machine. If you connect the card and have a GX data, you can unlock custom vehicles contained. So you could basically, okay, so GX had an ability called Garage where you can make your own custom vehicles. If you had your memory card, you could upload them in AX and play as them. But you can't access the garage in AX. You can only have them if you brought them. And if you put it in, you could also gain permanent access to the AX Cup, new machine parts, and 10 new vehicles. According to the internet, the AX cabinets are actually very rare. That there's actually a site, according to the internet, that compiles places to play the AX cabinets in North America. According to them, there's only 20 locations, mostly in the West Coast. What's up, guys? West Coast guys, say what's up. I'm sorry, East Coast, Barry. Sorry.
I'm not East Coast.
Well, you're close enough. You're Chicago. It's like across the street. It's like across the street. It's like a stone's throw away. Anyway,
I'm gonna buy you a map for Christmas.
I know, it's all up here in my brain. Anyway, thankfully there are a few ways to unlock these features without an arcade cabinet, but it's not easy. You got to basically play it in master difficulty. Look, dude, don't even try it. Like, I'm gonna save you guys a lot of trouble. You're not gonna unlock it. Just use a cheat or something, right? Save the game file. Have you seen a F-Zero AX cabinet in the flesh? And did you know it was that rare?
I knew it was rare, and I have seen one. There's one actually 10 minutes from me. So it's actually open now. I mean, it's COVID, so I'm not going. But if I wanted to mask up, glove up, I could go there. You could continue the show solo. I could play it. I could come back, and I could tell you about it. And
just take your phone with you and live stream while we talk.
I could. I would love to do that someday. Maybe someday I'll live stream from. But yeah, a few thoughts about the cabinet. It's huge. It's very long. You sit in it and you have to buckle a seatbelt for the motion to work. Otherwise, it won't operate. I mean, you can play the game, but it'll be stationary.
So the one that you went on is the blue one with the top on it, with the plastic piece in the back. Yeah, I had one. Like, maybe they took it down. Maybe in 2011 they still had it. So it's been a long time. Yeah. Mountain Mike's Pizza, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes from my house, had one, and like I saw it, I didn't know it was rare, so I played it. I didn't care. I didn't even know it had a memory card slot. I wish I did. But the one they had, like, I was looking at them online. It's the more simple one. Like, there's like 3 levels of it. There's one that's like stripped down, where it's just the seat, the steering wheel, and the whole thing, but it doesn't have like the whole plastic to it, which I think we're gonna see a video of in a little bit right now. But so let's just look at this one. This is they call it the deluxe version. If you're on the video tablet, Fossil Arcade did a quick look at it. We'll see him looking at it. I'll skip around, but so this is the one you played, the one he's showed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is not the one I had. This one's huge. It looks huge. This is
It is huge. When you enter Galloping Ghost, it's right there at the entrance to your right, and in front of it is the Galaxy Force 2 machine. So it's like 2 of these massive arcade machines
right there as you walk in.
Is that a CRT it has inside?
You know what? I believe so. This one looks like a straight up like CRT shoved in there, but I guess that's how it looks. I'll have to check, because I feel like there's a dedicated monitor and there's something going on here. Like, this looks like someone just shoved a Sony.
Yeah, like the same TV you have in your room, right? Like,
yeah,
put it up in that.
I have that in my basement. Yeah, I'll look into that. But yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, the one I played, the one I had, did not have any of the fancy, cool deluxe features, sadly. There was also a re-release version called a Monster Ride. This one actually lets you hover, so it's more realistic. It's the second video. Do you have it? Totally like a.
I'm gonna just. It does look like that. It looks like a Sony Wega.
See,
How funny is that?
are you looking at the video of the other cabinet?
Oh
They
yeah, let
call
me
this
check
one
this one out. Right now.
Monster Ride, and it actually hovers above the air, so it makes you feel like you're actually in F-Zero. But the color's all wrong. Red. It's a red, but it's like this is like more of an amusement ride, right?
Yeah, and this is a machine that's made for several different games, not
Exactly.
just.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
sort of like the R360 is made for 2 games.
Exactly, and this was
Yeah.
re-released later on. I obviously, if I haven't played the deluxe one, I definitely haven't played this one, and I don't think a lot of people are gonna have a chance to play this one because I'm assuming it's just in big amusement places in Japan.
Right. And we've talked about this too, George, like not to blast Americans, but like Japanese machines are made for smaller people. And after 10, 15, 20, 30 years, these machines start to break down, like just out of the sheer use and I think size of Americans. Like I have not ridden a fully functioning SEGA full immersion game ever, I don't think.
We got to get Japanese people to understand that, like, the weight limit in America is a huge problem, and you got to make it's like, what, do you expect us to lose weight? Like, get out of here.
Yeah,
get out.
I think when the R360 debuted at Galloping Ghost, I think they said it was like 350, and people were like, "Yay!"
350 is a. I'm assuming some people were complaining in the comments, like, "Come on, dude, you couldn't make it 450." Sadly, anyway.
1,000. Come on, well, me and my buddy, I want him to sit on my lap.
Covering F-Zero GX, one of the things that surprised me is how big the game is. So, like, I didn't even get all the notes I would want to do, and I have like 18 pages of notes. In the past F-Zero games, they were pretty bare bones. At least I thought. This game had a brand new modes for the franchise, including a 9-chapter story mode. This story mode actually took into account the previous titles, and even took to the fact that GX and AX existed. So can you actually read the story summary with your best announcer voice?
Okay. After the F-Zero X Grand Prix, where Captain Falcon took the grand prize, the F-Zero Committee developed 2 more F-Zero Grand Prix to be held simultaneously, the F-Zero GX and F-Zero AX. The contestants that participated in the previous Grand Prix were selected to race in the GX, while newcomers and former champions were selected for the AX. After completing all of the preliminary races, the qualifying pilots from both tournaments would compete in the combined final race.
Wow, what a story mode. Okay, guys. I think
that's basically reading how races work.
Yeah. I mean, in the story, you follow Captain Falcon, and it has more. It's mostly kind of like you're playing a fighting game. Let's think about it. Where there's a scenario where you have to race. It had cool cutscenes.
Is he a captain for something, or is that just his name? What's his deal?
His first name is Captain. His last name is Falcon. I don't know, actually.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's not how it is. And I know a bunch of Nintendo fans. You know what? I didn't even know there was a Captain Falcon when I played the game in Super Nintendo. I didn't know there was characters in this game when I first played the Super Nintendo. So yeah, I'm not going to say too much about about the characters on here, but well, you'll see. There's 40 characters in this game, by the way, and they all have their own profiles.
Let's go through all of them.
We're not going to go through all of them, but there's 40 of them. Each one of them has their own theme song and their own profile. And some of them are pretty interesting, but let's talk about one of the new features called Garage. Actually, it's not new, but it's improved from the ground up. So, and it's actually one of my favorite features in this game, so I had to put it in here. Just like past F-Zero games, this title also has a Grand Prix mode, which has okay, so we're talking about the Grand Prix modes. All right, let me get the images up. Here we go. Had a Grand Prix mode, which had 5 cups, this time being called Ruby Cup, Sapphire Cup, Emerald Cup, Diamond Cup, and AX Cup, which we talked about being the in the story. As you know, the AX Cup is based on the arcade version, but Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and Diamond are basically Pokemon games. They're referencing. Um, let me see. Okay, here we go. One of the biggest features for me in F-Zero GX was the garage mode. While I always thought it was the first game in the series to have this feature, it was actually introduced in F-Zero X expansion kit, which I never knew even existed because it was on the Nintendo 64 Double D. You ever hear about that? Which was only released in
I've heard
Japan.
of it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought you're like, is George talking about gibberish right now? Regardless, Garage and F-Zero GX is completely retooled by Amusement Vision, where they let you create custom vehicles with body parts, cockpit parts, booster parts. This time around, you can't rename or choose your stats. The stats are set by the parts you decide to pick. You can still change the color and of parts you customize, and you can also put 4 custom emblems. So let's talk about the emblem editor, which is basically kind of like Jet Set Radio Jet Set Radio, where you could do your own custom tags. You'd be able to. It's like a scaled down paint program where you can make your own emblems for your car. They would take 3 blocks of memory. So just think about how graffitis work. You have the ability to save up to 4 custom vehicles per memory card, taking up a total of 18 blocks, and you could load them from A and B, so you could technically have up to 8 custom vehicles at any time without standing up from your bed. Like, just have 2 memory cards in, 8 vehicles custom ready to go. The penis mobiles are all there, all 8 of them. As you know, the name of your vehicle changes based on the parts you put together. If you put the right parts together, you get a special machine. The game has 64 customizable parts to collect, and seeing as there are a ton of customizations, there is a lot to do. I looked through the special machines, which had 54 possible ones to unlock. I looked to see if the names used in the special machines had any SEGA references, and not really, but I'll name some of them that I thought might be. Carbuncle, which is a character in Puyo Puyo. Doubt this is what he meant. Dragoon, which is, Pan's Dragoon. And lastly, Blue Streak, which is a minor nickname, I think, for Sonic. What do you think about Blue Streak as a Sonic nickname? Nah?
That's in the theme song for the Saturday morning cartoon where they go, Blue Streak speeds by. So
Sounds like Butt Streak, like. Okay. Personally, I think Amusement Vision's customizable parts idea was pretty brilliant at the time and had a lot of fun doing it myself. What are your thoughts on that? Did you ever play the customization?
I played around with it. I thought it was really cool. I really liked the emblem editor. I liked the idea that you could unlock special machine names. If I'm thinking about like current Sega titles, closest I could think is actually Team Sonic Racing, which I think people get too bogged down by it missing out on a lot of cool Sega references and focusing too much on the team aspect to remember that it actually has a pretty cool customization mode. Not as deep as this, but I think it actually would have done well to take some of this into account and maybe put a little bit more editing in, because it's like it's a game that's made in 2018, 2019 compared to 2003. So that would have been cool. But I liked how F-Zero did it. I think it's very cool.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see. Let me get the notes. Sorry. It's just that something popped up on my thing. And now we're going to talk about the characters. All right. So one of the other aspects of F-Zero GX is how many damn racers the game squeezed into it. The game has 30 racers, each having their own character and vehicle. As you play, you unlock 11 more, including Deathborn. What a name. Which is considered character 00. That would mean the game has 41 racers to play as in F-Zero GX. Each of these racers have their own character design and profiles, even though you don't really see them when you race, whatever. We don't have time to talk about every single pilot since there are 40 of them, but they're very interesting designs in the mugshots. And the mugshots in here don't do it justice. Let me put the mugshots up. I want to talk to you about one character, and I'm sure you're seeing them right now. How do you describe this character you're seeing right here, Mr. EAD? Describe him to the people that are only seeing this via like audio.
All right, so think of like Danny DeVito playing Robotnik in the new Sonic movie, but they put him in a white leotard, and then they give him blue underwear and stick a Mario like power-up star on him, and then put him in red high heels, and then they stick 2 like Frankenstein bolts to his neck.
Yeah, that seems about right. That's how I would describe it.
He looks like those guys that show up in the what's that meme? You know, like Filthy Frank memes. He looks like a Filthy Frank character, doesn't he?
Yeah, he kind of does. He looks like he'd be hanging out with the crew, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that thing between his legs? Like what? Like Nintendo's like you can't do anything else. But this guy's packing a massive whatever celery thing that is.
What is going on there? That's like, is that a part of his foot or?
I have no idea. And he's wearing and he's wearing women's shoes.
Even for like a render, there's a lot of clipping. So yeah. I'm assuming it's like a part coming through his leg.
I hope so, because it's like Nintendo looked at this and they're like, yeah, no, this is cool. We could put this in the kid game. We
have rules, but this is fine.
Yeah, this is cool. This is all right.
Yeah.
I wanted you, with your cool voice, to read. We're going to look at the 10 characters that were created by Amusement Vision. They have pretty short profiles. Can you introduce them? And I'll be hitting the images here for each profile so our audience could see them.
Okay, I'll blast through this. So we have Phoenix. Known mainly as Phoenix, he is a space cop that hails from the 29th century. As part of the Galactic Space Police, one of his duties is protecting the timeline from criminals who are known to escape into the past or future to do damage. Besides his duties, he is also a brilliant mechanic and designed his own time machine, the Rainbow Phoenix. He also restored the discarded QQQ to be his partner.
Wow,
that's
beautiful. Weird. Beautiful. And then we have
what is this? Princia Ramode. All right, here we go. Princia Ramode is the princess of the Desert Kingdom on the planet Magica, a society with high advanced scientific knowledge. Her characteristic curiosity often leads her into mischief and gets her into dangerous predicaments. In order to increase her wisdom and life experience before becoming queen, she secretly ran off with her servants on an adventure to a host of other planets. When she arrived on Earth, she happened to catch a glimpse of an F-Zero Grand Prix and whimsically decided that she too wanted to race. Knowing that no amount of persuasion would budge her once she sets her mind to something, her servants were left with no choice but to prepare a machine that fully utilized the scientific technology of Magica.
Beautiful.
Okay.
What do you think about her design? I mean, it's so weird, right? Like, okay, now we have a princess.
Yeah, she looks like she's from that Arabian Fight game from SEGA. Or she looks like a fighter from Fighting Vipers. She just needs some like armor or something.
And there was people that made Fighting Vipers working on this game, surprisingly enough. But yeah, the next guy
doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
The next one is QQQ. QQQ is a junk robot that was found buried in a scrap pile in the Galactic Waste Management Facility. It's still unclear why it was discarded there, but it was coincidentally picked up from the heap and repaired by a very able space police detective named Phoenix, and quickly became his partner. For a robot, QQQ's construction is quite obsolete, but its artificial intelligence is still considered cutting edge for any age. God, he has the longest bio. QQQ is tortured by the knowledge that some very important data lies somewhere in its AI programming. Since the robot was damaged when it was thrown away, its memory cannot currently access it. The truth of the mystery data is this. QQQ was brought from the future by Phoenix and has the necessary navigation hardware to traverse time. However, if its AI is not repaired, thereby restoring its memory, it will never be able to return to the future. It's just a racing game, guys.
You have to have lore built in. Talking about Eggman, the next guy was like super Eggman inspired, right?
Oh my god, and look at this guy. Don Genie is the famous head of Universal Traders. He's been arrested several times for secretly trading in energy resources and weapons. Each time he's arrested, he's forced to pay a small fortune in bail to get himself free. At this time, it's unknown whether Don is participating in the F-Zero races because he wants to publicize his trading company or whether it's for fun. One thing's for sure, though, it must be related to some sinister gambling ploy he's put together. It's rumored that Don Genie has some connections, that's how you say that word, connections with Black Shadow, the Emperor of Evil.
Uh-oh.
He kind of looks like the villain from Knights, like the big guy. But like in human form. Or he looks like Black Arms from Shadow, but like mixed with a Don Corleone and a genie. It's very weird. And then he has Black Shadow. Do we talk about Black Shadow?
Black Shadow? What do you mean Black Shadow?
He works with Black Shadow, the Emperor of Evil. Okay, we will get to Black Shadow. Great. Next guy is Digiboy. Digiboy's real name is Terry Getter, and he's a young genius currently attending Einstein Academy. Well, he's just a kid. He's been dubbed Digiboy because there's no digital device he can't deftly use. He's even invented many of his own. He's also analyzed every past F-Zero race and has subsequently devised a perfect equation to work out his self-built machine so that he can win the next race. In his dictionary, there is not such word as luck. God, I hate this guy.
So this is the guy that like comments and goes, actually, guys, I know every single F-Zero game from the ground up, and you guys are wrong. Digiboy is the best.
And he's like, he looks like he's almost cosplaying as Mega Man with his legs. But then he's
from like the what's that game called? The really crappy virtual fighter RPG with the little kid with the.
Yeah, he looks like that, but he has pigtails for some reason. Like he's a boy, but he's got like pigtail hair. God, I don't like this character. This next one's
guy in the next SEGA event. I'm going to cosplay as Digiboy.
And Digiboy from F-Zero.
I do want to say that he was so edgy they had to censor him in America. In Japan, he had a line where they asked him if he believed in God, and he says he doesn't believe in such delusions. So he's an edgelord for sure.
Wow. Now this one looks really weird. Daigora is the only son. Oh, what's that?
Oh, this guy's straight out of like Panzer Dragoon or something, right?
No, he looks like he's from that anime, and I'm One Piece. He looks like a character from One Piece.
There you go, One Piece samurai.
Yeah, like straight rip. Daigora is the only son of Samurai Gora. He's so bad that even his father can't keep him under control. Daigora is a master swordsman and loves to run riot with his sword whipping through the air. He has immense respect for his father and will boast about him regarding any subject. He hopes to earn the praise of his father by defeating Captain Falcon, his father's biggest enemy. As a pilot, he has more aptitude and potential than his father, and many are eagerly awaiting to see what kind of pilot he grows up to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a delinquent.
Yeah, and he rides a go-kart. What a stupid looking car. Now this looks like okay, I'll read what it is and then I'll describe it. The triplets come from the planet Shinar. The average lifespan of these beings on Shinar is 200 years, extremely long compared to that of Earthlings. However, even after reaching adulthood, they remain quite small because they use telepathy. They don't need to speak to communicate. Dai, San, and Gem have incredible teamwork skills and an amazing ability to operate their machine as one. Dai takes care of the handling, San handles the navigation, and Jen handles acceleration and braking. So these guys look like...
they look like they're straight out of like Spirited Away,
Pretty much, yeah.
don't they?
Yeah.
They look weird. They look like something you buy at a Chinese like gift shop. Very weird.
They're basically three Chinese guys. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what they thought about. They all look like little dictators from North Korea. All three of them. Like, come on, dude. Anyway.
Well, the good thing is one of them will kill the other two. That's how it works in North Korea.
I think
And
so.
if you're in North Korea listening to this, I'm really sorry to.
I don't think that's how it works in somewhere.
No, I don't think so.
Next up, we have Lily Flyer. Lily is affiliated with the reserves of the Galactic Space Forces and has received extensive warfare training. Beginning shortly after she was born, she has always received excellent marks in her training classes and has even participated in recent scrimmages as emergency support. While she sometimes displays the air of a naive little girl, she strictly obeys every command of her superior officers and aims to execute all of her responsibilities perfectly, regardless of their nature. Lily has entered the F-Zero competition simply as part of her training. She hopes to polish her snap decision-making skills under pressure.
Perfect.
All right. Next up, we have BD Joe. No, wait, this is a different guy. So this is PJ with his groovy taxi. PJ works as a cabbie for Galaxy Cab, a company whose taxis travel from planet to planet all over the universe. As the biggest earner at Galaxy Cab, he has demanded an increase in wages, which resulted in a fight with the owner of the company, and he wound up earning him a temporary suspension. PJ saw an article about F-Zero races, and it changed his life. He took all of his life savings and transferred his taxi into an F-Zero machine. Can he really take the driving skills that he forged as a taxi driver and use them to win the Grand Prix? I like this guy. This is my favorite one out of all of them.
I think that, like, this is based off of, like, it has to be some based off of, like, Crazy Taxi, right?
Right. He looks like a baby giraffe, too.
Yeah, he kind of does.
He looks like a baby giraffe wearing, like, a Nights into Dreams kind of costume.
For some reason, the next two people pictures are not saved on my gallery. So basically, the two bad guys, which are Deathborn, the Emperor, and a magician called Spade. We could skip them and go to the levels. But what do you think about these characters? Like, they're pretty all over the place. I understand they're trying to make this whole, like, these guys are all coming from all over the galaxy. They're trying to make strange characters. Do you get this feeling this is what the franchise was when you played the Super Nintendo version, which literally had no story or any of this?
No, I mean, like I said, I don't really remember much of the racers themselves from the Super Nintendo one. Here, though, not only are they varied, but they look like they're from different games, which is not a bad thing, because I feel like it gives it kind of that Sonic and Sega All-Stars racing feel. Like, you look at the triplets, and it reminds me of, like, the Chow, you know? And you look at Lily, and it reminds me of, like, Ooh La La. You look at PJ, and it's like BD Joe. So it's got a little bit of, even the villains, like Spade kind of looks like a Nights into Dreams villain, whereas Black Shadow kind of looks like some edgelord Darth Vader wannabe. I don't know. But, I mean, it's cool. I think the characters' designs, by and large, are fun, different. I really like that each one has these, like, super deep bios. It kind of reminds me of when you read the Shenmue strategy guide, and it'll be like, oh, there's the guy who runs the burger stand, and then it's like, here's a paragraph about his life, you know?
Yeah. One thing.
Here's his blood type.
Oh, we need. Oh, Japan has to know. I'm surprised they didn't have all their blood types on here. But
Yeah.
The game also allows you to unlock Ghosts of Development Staff. You have to basically beat a track in time trial mode and come within 10 seconds of the staff's member's time, and then it'll be unlocked. and then you'll be able to buy them in the in-game store. This will take 3 blocks apiece to save. Beating the staff's goats rewards you 25 tickets for the game shop. A staff ghost is also used in the final chapter of the story mode as one of the 3 creators that races against Captain Falcon. According to online resources, these ghosts are made up by Nintendo staff members, not Sega. So sad. I kind of thought it would be interesting to play like some of the people that are still working on the Yakuza games. I'm like, are they even good at F-Zero? I wanted to see if I could, beat them, but Negoshi and all those, they're not playing the game and uploading their ghosts, sadly. The next thing we're going to talk about is the tracks. This game had, let me see, well, I have those here. Had 12 venues. Each venue had obviously multiple tracks. They reused assets, but they were 12 venues, which more than half had to be unlocked in super hard, in the super hard game. I don't know if it's super hard, but let's talk about some of the stages, I guess. The first one we're going to talk about is called Outer Space. Outer Space is actually a brand new game level for AX. It was once a space colony, but it was hit with by a large group of meteorites and was rendered useless. The F-Zero Execution Project was able to request that the track be made from what was left over of the station. Though successful, the track is full of dangerous hazards. Every F-Zero pilot fears this place. The next one we have is Phantom Road. Is of course okay. So this is in GX only. This is the first time ever appearing in GX. It has 2 different tracks and totals. It's an area covered by mysterious secrets. Rumors say that it's actually a black hole expanding, explaining the odd behavior of the track. Other rumors say that the track is completely computer generated, a track in cyberspace, or a whole new dimension, the ultimate challenge. Phantom Road is actually kind of based off of Rainbow Road. So the team's take on Rainbow Road, they called it Phantom Road. Cosmo Terminal. This is also a GX exclusive first time level. This cosmopolitan terminal uses high-tech elevators which ties the ground with space. It is considered as the new mode of transportation where it substitutes the tracked elevator. Presently, the construction has reached a height of 86,000 kilometers. I don't know how much that is. I'm American, sorry. That's like a lot of feet, though. But because the budget is exceeded substantially, construction has a rough going. In a circumstance, the F-Zero Execution Project constructs the circuit, whatever. It's basically an elevator stage, all right? The next one is called Green Plant. Because of the explosive increase in population in humans, humans have been forced to immigrate to other parts of the universe to secure necessary means for life, especially oxygen. To exist in this struggle, biotechnologists have created plants of unusually vitality, using them to build a completely automated oxygen generating facility, the green plants. The plants, however, turn out to be more intelligent than humans, and while faithfully fulfilling their function as oxygen generators, breed quietly throughout the universe. That's kind of scary. I mean, can you imagine if plants could come back and be like, we're smarter than you? The next,
well, that's a M. Night Shyamalan movie, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. The next one is an oldie, Sand Ocean, which came from the first F-Zero. Is a desolate planet whose entire surface is covered in sand dunes. This planet's extreme arid frontier planet is thought to have been completely void of human life for many years. However, in F-Zero GX, it's revealed that the ruins of a 30,000-year-old civilization was found within the desert, along with a monstrous alien life forms by fearless adventurers. This resulted in the planet becoming one of the most popular tourist destinations in the galaxy. The next one is Lightning. Lightning is an area where the climate was once calm, but air pollution created perpetual lightning zone. This extreme air pollution continues to destroy the ozone layer, Now the frequent bolts of electricity which hammer down from the sky are harnessed and put to use by innovative power companies. The total power generated in the efficient recycling facilities exceeds 10 million gigawatts. I'm assuming that's a lot because
That's a lot.
the
Yeah.
output is so great, in fact, that Lightning now exports its excess power to neighboring planets. Uh, Fire Field, this is another one from the original, was once the greatest places in the galaxy to harvest minerals, but in the leading resources company was too greedy, digging too deep and hitting volcano. It caused a huge explosion and turned the planet into a fiery hell full of extremely hot magma. So, and then we have Areopolis, right? Is that how you say it?
Areopolis?
Areopolis.
Areopolis?
Forget
Areola?
it. This is the same time I had with the Sonic level that has the same basically name. Anyway, this is basically a supercomputer level. It's controlled by Mother Q, which stores and computes detailed information on all the citizens to create the ideal living environment. Because of the dramatic population increase, Mother Q has created skyscrapers that can regenerate themselves, creating new structures to house the ever-increasing population. Mother Q kind of reminds me of like Mother Brain from like either Metroid or Fantasy Star, depending on
I
what.
can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Casino Palace is a first course. I mean, it's a course in GX, brand new. Located in the entertainment district in the outskirts of Mute City, Casino Palace is a magnet for people seeking to increase their material wealth. Dome-shaped entertainment facilities fill the sky with neon signs making outrageous claims, and the streets overflow day and night with tourists who are willing to believe them. Fortunes are won and lost again every hour and every day, and now the area is even more popular thanks to the arrival of the F-Zero circuit. Port Town, which appeared in the first game, is famously known as the Intergalactic Trade Center and is the home of bounty hunter and F-Zero racer Captain Falcon, who lives off the coast on the Chain Islands. Port Town's architecture is marked by towering skyscrapers and pyramid-shaped office buildings, and the town is bordered by mountains. A giant construction robot that looks like Rob from the in Famicom colors can be seen in the background on the two buildings in F-Zero. GX, obviously. Big Blue. This is actually one of the levels I had like ingrained in my head when I played this as a kid. So it's from the first game, obviously. Big Blue underwent a significant change in appearance and look, much more industrial than the other games, with buildings, hotels, underwater tunnels, etc., found all over the circuits. The planet has strictly protected by nature conservative groups over the long time, but it is rumored that a new energy source laid down at the bottom of the seabed. Investigations started right away, although no discoveries have been found. Right? And the last one, probably the most famous, probably Green Hill Zone for F-Zero, Mute City. The heavily populated fictional city on Earth in the F-Zero series is originally named was Mutant City. From the current name, well, it's not that anymore. The city is most famous location in F-Zero Grand Prix, and has had courses in every single F-Zero game to date. The population is over 1 billion, and it consists of all kinds of sentient life. In F-Zero GX, Mute City is known as a metropolis at the heart of the Space Federation, and the information linked to the entire universe. And it is also regarded as the most advanced, sophisticated city life in the universe. In the future, Mute City is replaced by Bionica City as the center of economic, political, and cultural activity in the galaxy. All right. So the game's trying to add lore, obviously, when it comes to like these tracks, right? So they're trying to make it like, oh, this city did this, now it's changed. Trying to make it feel like they evolved over time, like they're not like it was in the Super Nintendo game. When you played the game, did you know any of this history of these maps or any of these background of at least of the
Nothing.
racetracks? It's interesting that they spend so
Nothing.
much time doing this when most people are just going to be going like boom, 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 going fast. You know what I mean? But let me see. Let me get the tracks up since we're going to be listening to some tracks right now. Let's talk about the music, right? We talked about the music last time when we talked about Ghostbusters. You played a few tracks. We thought that was interesting, so we're going to do a little bit of that right now. This game was actually written by two composers, Hidenori Shoji and Daiki Kasho. Hidenori Shoji, who is best known for making, at this point, Fighting Vipers 2. He also co-wrote Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2. He later is going to work on the Yakuza series, and if you listen to his tracks on here, you'll see a lot of influence that reminds you. This is basically the remixes of some of these tracks, which were heavy metal. He kind of made them more like Yakuza, where it's like this heavy electric music, but still heavy. You know what I'm talking about, Barry? And Daiki Kasho, according to my sources, Daiki was actually created themes for the characters in the game. There are like over 40 characters, so he did over 40 themes. He's mostly known for his music in Gran Turismo and also doing the theme song for The King of Fighters Another Day, an anime that came out in the mid 2000s. So let's look at our first track. Our first track is first I have to play the music from the speakers, so let me set that up. But the first track we're going to be looking at is from is Mute City, which they kind of did a I mean, what did they really do? They basically did a remix of it, but like I don't know. Let's listen to it and you tell me what you think of it. I'll play it over here. I think you'll be able to hear it on the mic. Can you hear it?
A little bit, yeah.
So see, it plays. It's good, right? And then
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it sounds like kind of like your typical futuristic racing music. Kind of reminds me of that stage in Sonic Heroes where it's like in the power plant.
Yeah, and I'm going to play it a little bit forward because it takes a little while to start up the actual melody that everybody knows. So, I just want to play the original Super Nintendo one, kind of in that point where there was already the melody, just to see kind of the difference. So it's more simplistic, more melody driven. It's like metal, really. So they definitely changed it in their own style. I was such a huge fan of the first one that when I first played the game, I was actually kind of upset. It kind of grew on me. It's as its own style, its own take on the franchise's music. What do you think about that?
For sure.
Do you think that Yakuza-fied, I guess I would call it. That's how I would call it. I'm sorry. The Yakuza-fied.
I get that from it for sure.
And the next one I want to play is from the Lightning stage. This one's original track because it's an original racing track. Let's listen to a little bit. I'll play it in the middle of it, some part of it. 24 seconds in. If I told you that track was in Yakuza, would you believe me?
I would, yeah. Do you why?
Because like a lot of the stuff that when I was listening to this, it really reminded me of basically Yakuza. I was like thinking to myself, like, wow, this is actually like this is the guy from Yakuza, obviously, but his style is unremarked. I mean, I could tell right away it was him, but yeah, I don't want to say more. That it just sounds like Yakuza music, but Nintendo music. So here's the other guy that did the themes. Here's his theme for Deathborn. Okay, he's got like a brain. Look at that dude. It's exposed.
Oh wow.
It's like a creepy Halloween thing. And each, let me put it up a little bit to it's very Halloween themed. And I kind of feel like a lot of this guy's like themes for these characters were kind of like thrown in the ocean because like nobody really like there's 40 characters. I can remember every single one of the themes, you know. It's not stage themes, it's not
Right.
track themes. That
Yeah.
sucks. So I want to give the guy a little shout out and play one of his tracks he did. He's mostly known for Gran Turismo, and if you Google his name, the composer, some very naughty stuff comes out. So if you're easily offended, watch it. There's some memes playing around with this guy's name. I showed it to you last night. Just wanted to warn people.
Oh right.
Yeah. Promotion. Since Nintendo was going to be the publisher of F-Zero GX, the burden of promotion fell on Nintendo, and historically the company has been really good at promoting even minor franchises. No surprise that we have a lot to talk about here. One of the things that Nintendo did to promote F-Zero GX was giving out a promotional demo disc with pre-orders of Mario Kart Double Dash, where you can play Captain Falcon on Mute City Twist Road. As you know, Mario Kart is the highest selling franchise on any Nintendo console it appears on. But I wish that, I mean, personally to me, I kind of wish that like it wasn't just a pre-order bonus. Like no matter what time you bought this, you could have gotten the disc, you know?
Yeah.
Have you ever bought a game with a promotional demo like this? Where have you ever bought it like a game where you got a demo with it and then you decided that you're going to buy the game after you played the demo? Like, has that ever convinced you?
I mean, there's the situation with Sonic Adventure 2, the trial on Phantasy Star Online, where as much as I was excited to try Phantasy Star, which was a franchise I never really got into, I was really looking forward to playing Sonic Adventure 2, so that's kind of like a reversal of that. However, I'd say maybe the closest I could come is like the Dreamcast demo discs, where I just like fell in love with Power Stone, and I was like, I got to get this game, because that was, you know, a time where demo discs really were what they said they were, where you would play through like 8 different little levels, and then you were kind of making your shopping list based on that. So you'd be like, Trick Styles, kind of crummy, I don't want that. Definitely want to get Power Stone. Might rent Ready to Rumble. You know, it was that sort of situation there. So, yeah, that definitely, that was one instance like that for me. How about you?
For me, it was definitely when I didn't buy the game, but I really wanted to play the demo, but it was basically Dragon Quest VIII when they had I forgot what Final Fantasy game it was. It might be 12. I'm not sure. But they had a demo disc of 8, and since they never brought over really, like at that time Square Enix never really brought over their Dragon Quest games, and it was kind of like the first time they were doing it, and I was always obsessed with reading how crazy Japan was for Dragon Quest, and I'm like, there has to be something here that I'm missing, right? So when it was finally coming, I wanted to support it, and I was crazy, but I didn't want to buy a Final Fantasy game just to try it, so I had to beg my friend, let me borrow a demo disc, and of course he made it super hard because they had to pry it out of their hands. But regardless, that was one of them. I definitely sold me on that game, and I bought it when it came out. I think another one for a lot of people is the Crackdown demo. Crackdown is one of those surprise hits. I do know that there was a Crackdown 3 not that long ago. I mean, I haven't played it, but Crackdown 1 was pretty sick. So that demo definitely got me to buy it. Let's talk about some of the print ads that they did for this game. They were actually very hard to find, surprisingly enough, because like I've actually had no trouble finding SEGA ads, right? You okay, Barry?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had
I had to sneeze.
a brief moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. I was going to say, here are some ads, right? So it took me a while to find these, right? So here's, as you can tell, they were hard to find since I have a picture of the ad. Like somebody took a picture of it, like
Oh
laminated.
wow.
Like people are buying these things, like these pictures. Like I don't know if you know this, people are selling these advertisements for magazines. They're ripping them out and selling them on eBay, and they have value. Can you believe that?
I see that all the time because I will do eBay searches for like strange games that don't really have much merch, hoping to find not only the game but maybe like a store display or something like that. And I will always see this, and it's the stupidest thing. Like the one I see a lot are Sonic Lifesavers, and it's like, oh, it's a comic book ad. I'm like, yeah, I have probably 30 Sonic comics where that's the back page. Like, just sell the fucking comic book. Don't cut it out. It's such a waste. One ad. Have you read a gaming magazine from the past like 30 years? They're filled with ads. Like, why is that one ad suddenly like cutting it out makes it worth more than the magazine itself? I'd rather you sell me a magazine and be like, oh, by the way, there's an ad in it. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, like
It's so stupid.
they're selling them for like $10 a pop or something like that. Like it's not like an egregious amount, but it's also like egregious when you think that like there was probably like 15 ads in that magazine that was probably worth $5, but he's selling it for $10 a pop. Yeah. So anyway, this is one.
Stupid.
I actually found this on a Reddit thread where the guy said he bought it and it was a Japanese ad, but it's super obviously not a Japanese ad because it has a USRB in the corner right there. Regardless,
Dummy.
it's a speed redefined, and it's a racer for those now in the audio podcast. It's a racer setting up to run, and his shoes are actually the hover carts from the game. And then on the bottom right-hand corner, there's a few screenshots, very tiny. Doesn't really show off the graphics, which I think were a big aspect of the game. So to me, I think the North American ad's just whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of those like they're trying to be artsy but not showing the game. Like, as a kid, this wouldn't make me want to buy the game, by the way. So, what do you think about this one?
I mean, I might have mentioned in the past, I've worked for marketing teams. I've done marketing for major brands. And, like, I can see this being pitched, and I can see a creative director going, oh, yeah, so it's like speed redefined. Okay, yeah, find a cool stock photo, make his shoes. I really like that. Oh, that's really, really... And, like, no one's there going, this is a video game. Can we show screenshots, like, big screenshots? And they're like, we'll put them in a little graphic at the bottom. We'll also show the console for some reason. And, like, the logo of the console. So it's really only 4 very small cropped screen. It's so stupid. I don't know. Like, people overthink it all the fucking time in marketing. And it's just like, guys, you don't need to overthink it. Video games, big screenshots, characters. That's all we want.
There's another version of this ad for the UK, and it's a double-sided version, but I didn't even bother putting it in here because it's as useless as this because the other side has no screenshots. It had like 2 other words. I forgot what it was. It was like, I think it was just
Careful.
I think it was just speed redefined on the other side, and it was just the mountains. Yeah. There was literally nothing there. It was like just the mountains with nobody there on the other side, and they did that as a double-page ad, like a super waste.
Yeah. Well, careful though. Remember, we've been said that we Americans like to push the British, the European stuff aside.
I love our British listeners. You're the one that has a problem with British people. I don't know what they did to you, man, but they're awesome. I love you guys.
Oi up, eh? What? I don't know. That's my British guy.
The next one we're talking about is the Japanese one. Obviously, we don't know what it says here, but this one really took the screenshots and we're like, this is what the game is, and it's insane. Look, the screenshots are overlapping. Overlapping screenshots means crazy. Everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a lot better than the other one. This would sell me on the game more than the other one would. What about you?
I like it. It looks like more than a racing game because it almost feels like you're seeing cutscenes, you're seeing like environmental shots, and yeah, I think it's cool. It gives you a really good, varied look at all the tracks. I'm a longtime fan of the Wipeout series, so seeing this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. It's like Wipeout, but with crazy characters. All for it. I love this one.
Yeah.
The next one is the ad for the North America. It's like a flyer, the arcade flyer. The first one has Captain Falcon, and I forgot this girl's character's name. You read her profile. It's one of their.
Is that Lily or something?
Yeah, and it says at 1,000 miles per hour, you better not blink. And then it says the future of racing has arrived, and it has the big fat blue Sega logo on the left and the ugly communist Nintendo logo on the right.
Get it out of here.
Yeah, I love them both together. It's just joking. Very simple ad. Here's the other side of the ad where it's their other character, that princess that came from another planet that wants to race in F-Zero. And it has a bunch of lettering where it's like they're trying to squeeze all the features into it. It's like 1,000 features, and even the typeface is all ugly too. It's like they couldn't fit it all in there.
I hear you.
Let's look at the first commercial we have right here. I have to put it up. Let me put it up. Oh yeah, this is the 15-second ad. This one is talking about the speed of the game. They're really like hyping it up. I'll play it. Let's see if it's not too loud.
It's very loud.
Make your heart rate. F-Zero GX, product not yet ready. Coming this fall only to Nintendo GameCube.
What do you think about that whisper? Oh, I'm sorry. It's GameCube. Sorry, guys. This is not a Sega Dreamcast. This is not a Sega Dreamcast commercial, guys. Sorry, It kind of gave me a Sega Dreamcast vibes, doesn't it? That commercial.
For sure, yeah. Except instead of like with the Dreamcast, it was like flying into the swirl or something like that, and then this one it was the heartbeat. I like that one. That was cool.
The next one is I think this one's better than the last one. This one plays up more of the customization in the game, the cutscenes, and makes it feel bigger than the other one did. The other one just playing off the speed. Let's play it. 1, 2, 3.
Customize your own machine and race through 20 gravity-defying courses at ridiculous speeds. F-Zero GX, the future of racing is in your hands. Only for Nintendo GameCube. Rated T for T.
Pretty extreme ad right there. I thought that ad was really well done. I think it played on the speed, the quick cuts of Sega, that style that Sega had back then, and it plays on it kind of features almost every little aspect of the game, like in subtle ways, like the miles per hour going up. It's a fast game. The quick cuts, it's a fast game. They say it's customizable parts. There's cutscenes. They showed the cutscenes that look high quality. I think they did a good job on that ad.
I liked it. Yeah.
So let's talk about the legacy that this franchise left behind. Unsurprisingly, for a lot of people listening to this game was very popular, and with the critics, it received an 89% on Metacritic with 50 reviews. Nintendo World Report gave the game a perfect score, stating, "With excellent controls, track design, graphics, sound, and customization, this is clearly the best F-Zero game in the series, and one of the best games on GameCube overall." Yahoo said, "Few games deserve the high praise we're willing to lavish on F-Zero GX. Finely tuned, tightly balanced, and exceedingly fun. It is a step above and beyond any similar game that have come before." GameSpot gave it a 86%. The extreme increase in difficulty will surely turn some people away before they've seen the 20 tracks and unlocked all the story mode chapters. But if you want a light speed racer that looks and plays sharply while simultaneously offering some dramatic challenges, F-Zero GX is exactly what you're looking for. And I think this is kind of like a trend now. The worst score was given by a site called Game Critics, and this is not the first time we've talked about these guys. Last time we made fun of them, you're like, "Oh yeah, Game Critics," more like Game Crap or something like that.
Lame critics.
There you go. which seems to be the name I see coming up when we have to talk about who hate the haters, right? So this is what they had to say about this game. What should have been a fast, flashy, lighthearted affair is somehow grim and joyless. There's wonderful content here, but unfortunately, most gamers won't ever see most of it because it's locked away behind a series of near impossible challenges. They gave the game a 60%. According to Nagashi himself, the game would sell 1.5 million units worldwide. So the legacy of the game is pretty high, with many calling it one of the greatest racing games of all time. I do think the way Amusement Vision was organized and over-delivered products on a small budget eventually led to the merger of Amusement Vision to SEGA to make a team of 128 employees that would work on a epic and film-style titles, which later became Yakuza. The year after F-Zero GX, Amusement Vision released 2 more games before merging Ollie King, which this was when the Smilebit staff merged into Amusement Visions. They made that game. And they also made, I don't know if you consider this one of their games, but they're credited for it, Shining Force Resurrection of the Dark Dragon on the Game Boy Advance. I see it as Sega usually, but it's in their page, so I just put it on here. So as for Nintendo, it's unsurprising that people had been asking for a new F-Zero for a while. While the franchise had more titles after it on the Game Boy Advance, the fans have wanted a proper follow-up to F-Zero GX. In a 2015 interview with Smosh Games, Miyamoto, who was a producer with Nagashi on this game, said, maybe if we create a new type of controller interface, and we find a controller interface that's particularly suited for F-Zero, then maybe we'll do something with it again in the future. What do you think about Miyamoto's approach that it needs its own control scheme or it needs some sort of control gimmick?
No. This is the guy who's like, oh, Mario Galaxy has to be playable by going like this constantly. Like, I get it. I love Miyamoto and the games he makes, but sort of like with Yu Suzuki, sometimes you just want it, you hit your head against the wall. You're just like, dude, you do not need to wait for another controller interface. There are racing games out there right now using controllers that exist.
Come on.
There's that Nintendo Switch game, Fast RMX, that looks a lot like F-Zero, and that game is like, come on. I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's like, there's GameCube controls you could connect onto the Switch. Like, if people want to use that.
This is the Nintendo control scheme. It's been this for years. What are you waiting for?
It's just Miyamoto being him.
A steering wheel?
It's Nintendo being... Okay, so rumors have been flying around about Nintendo having a new F-Zero for Switch. One of the reasons is that Takaya Amamura, who worked on every F-Zero game in some capacity that has been released or announced, hasn't really been working on a game since Star Fox Zero. That's his last credited game. Actually, his last credited game was Starlink Battle for Atlas, but that wasn't made by Nintendo. He was just there to consult about them using Star Fox. So the last product he's released as a full-scale product was Star Fox Zero, and that was in 2016. So this guy's just working on something we don't know yet. We'll find out. A lot of people believe it's going to be a new F-Zero game. But I'm going to close up this episode with a quote from Nagashi where he talked about when he talked to us, because this is from the Sega Bits interview, about the possibility of a new F-Zero GX back in 2012. He said, I'd like that if I ever have the chance. Racing games are not so popular lately. This is back in 2012. So it would be fun if I could suggest some ideas from different angles. Whether I've considered it in details, now that's a secret.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Sneaky guy.
We're gonna close up this episode by reading some of your F-Zero GX memories. See, I gave a dramatic pause. You, the audience.
And, of course, this was a pick from Tyler. We read his memories at the beginning, so thank you so much for picking that. If you want us to cover any game, you can just check us out on Patreon. We have a tier for that. You can do it for a month and then jump back to the, lower tier, or you can keep it going like some of these guys have been. And we've been on a pretty good streak of like covering Patreon selected games. I really enjoy it because it surprises us. It keeps us on our toes, and it's stuff we might not even consider. So, you might be going to us, oh, why don't you cover Snail Maze? And we'd be like, well, we'll never do it. And then they go, but I'm backing you now, so you have to do it. So you never know. But so to wrap things up, here are our Patreon memories. So we have Nicholas Schaefer. He says, so while my first console was a Sega Genesis, my second was an SNES, and one of the 3 games I got with it was F-Zero. So when a Nintendo franchise I love had an entry by Sega, I had to own it. It did not disappoint. I have to admit I'm not the best at GX or racing games in general, but it is just so cool to play. And then we have TH. He said, I bought this game back when I had a GameCube. I remember when I first started playing, the sheer thrill of the ridiculous speed in the ships shot up to. At first, I could barely believe that I was supposed to play this game. It made Wipeout and any other racer as well seem so slow by comparison. I got addicted to the speed. Oh, don't get addicted. And he said, I just played the hell out of it. You guys can swear in these too. Like, I'll drop the F-bomb. He said, I spoke about the game to a workmate, and to my surprise, he had it and loved it too. He also had a video projector, and let me tell you something, playing this game on that setup is incredible. It blew my mind. It's one of my most fondly remembered video game memories, playing F-Zero GX on that massive screen. Wish I could do it again. And then finally, and this was submitted as we were talking earlier, Daniel Andres eked in, and he said, F-Zero GX. Never played it, but I'd really like to. I don't know. That Sega developed this game until much, much later in my life. For now, I only own the first 2 F-Zeros on SNES and N64. I really do need to get this game someday. And yeah, if you guys want to check it out, it's out there for sale. The price really hasn't lowered. It's like $60 or more. So it's rare, but it's not like different than buying a brand new game rare. So
You could also emulate it on Dolphin if you really, really want to, not pay anything. I'm not trying to condone piracy, but I wish they would re-release this game. That'd be sick. And
that'd be awesome.
I thought Daniel emailed us before and told us that he kind of wanted us to cover this game, so I don't know why he hasn't played it and wanted it covered.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Next time we have Yakuza 0. So if you guys back us at $1 tier, we'll read your memories of Yakuza 0. You guys remember that very retro game. Peace.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.